Coming up on Two Wheels this week, I spend the day in an extremely muddy field somewhere on the outskirts of Wigan to watch a sport which looks very much like Speedway but is actually called grass track. And Jeff gets all exotic with a fashionable piece of Italian machinery, the motor's Suzuki-powered SB8R.
Look at that, is that muddy or is that muddy? I think this is without doubt the dirtiest, muckiest and one of the noisiest forms of motorcycle sport. We've got people here on 250s, 350s and 500cc machines because this is grass track racing.
Away we go then with race number 6, third leg of the 500, and it's Ashworth getting very good
Well, here's the man that knows all about it, Ricky Ashworth, the current 350cc British youth champion. Have I said that right?
Yeah.
Right, current champion, so that's pretty good. So you know all about grass track?
Yeah.
It's very similar to Speedway, it looks like it. What are the main differences then?
Well, one of the main differences is that it's run on a grass field instead of a shale type Speedway circuit.
Right.
And the bikes are also different, they're slightly longer, they've got rear suspension on, because the surface is a lot more rough than a Speedway circuit.
Right.
And you also need like various things, you know, for the bike to pass the scrutiny, like a front brake and, you know, things.
I notice you've got a brake on these, yeah.
You don't actually use it when
you don't appear to be using the brakes very much.
No, you don't really use them when you're riding. It's dangerous really to use your brake. I know it sounds weird, but
right.
If you use your brake, you'd be off.
Right. But there's a lot more riders in each heat out there. The Speedway meeting's usually 4 riders over what, 4 laps.
Yeah.
There's what, 10, 12 of you out
Yeah,
there?
there's like 10 or 12 riders in each heat. It makes it a lot more exciting.
It does make it a lot more exciting, doesn't it? But is it run like a Speedway event? I mean, it's not a team event, this, is it?
No, it's individual events.
Right.
Yeah. You know, if you win the race, you get 10 points. Second place, 9 points. Third place, 8 points, and so on.
Right.
And the person with the most points at the end of the 3 qualifying heats, you know, goes through to the final, where it can be all decided on the day.
Well, we've met the junior 350 champion. There's the senior 350 champion, Tony Utkin. Tony, first of all, I've got to ask you, I've just watched you out there, how on earth do you ride in these conditions without goggles?
Well, normally I would wear goggles, but the conditions are so poor today. It's not conditions we would normally ride in, that you find that the muck, when it actually hits your face, blinds you when you have goggles on. So I've just had a little piece of plastic on the front and just ducked my head down when I'm there. It's just the muck actually hits you full in the face and you become blind. It's like switching the lights off. So it's actually safer, I would say.
But also you're normally in front, or you have been in front, which helps, I know, for visibility in there. But I watched you there. You went out on your 350. And you won into the little paddock area, straight off that onto a 500, went out and won. So, I mean, you're in 2 classes here,
So I ride 500cc and 350, and I just find myself I prefer to ride two classes. It's a long day for a rider if you only ride one class, and the bikes are the same. It's just a different CC engine, you know. So
it's very, very physical, this, isn't it? People don't. I mean, I've tried to ride Speedway once, and I couldn't walk for a week afterwards. And I only tried it once, but I mean, people don't realise how physical it is.
I must admit, at my age now, when I've done a grass track, that night and the next day, you know, I mean, I feel it now. When you're 20, you don't feel it. And it does definitely take it out of you. It looks very simple to anybody who has never rode.
That's the art of being good at it, isn't it?
Well, that's right, yeah, he's making it look easy. But, and it is a sport where you've got to ride into fitness. And I find riding two classes is difficult at the start of the year, but you've just got to ride through it. And I mean, anybody who's rode a road bike, you would not believe how your arms ache after 2 laps.
Tell me about it. I know all about it. I've tried it. What do you think then about, you just said you've been doing it some years.
I started in 1988, so it's 11 years I've been riding.
And you've been 3 times now, British 350 champion, senior champion. It's going to end someday, but I mean, there's lots of young kids coming up now, like the lad we've met, Ricky Ashworth. He's 17. He's not a million miles behind you yet at the moment. He's still behind you. What do you think of these youngsters then?
Well, the great thing that the ACU did was let the youngsters come in at 15 instead of 16. And I know it's only a year, but the amount of riders who have come through are just unbelievable. I mean, there's Ryan Tully, Greg Williamson, Ricky Ashworth. There's loads. I would say there's 10 riders who've come in over the last year who really are right at the forefront of the racing straight away. And you know, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, all the top riders are most probably older. They're all in the late 20s, early 30s. But it's nice to see young kids coming through. They gain where they'll go through gaps and sort of flat out, where older riders do it more on experience. You know, I might not pass them on the first bend, I'll pass them on the third lap, you know, where they're trying to do it all in a lap, you know. And so I gain on experience, they gain because they're a little bit madder because they're younger, you know.
No fear.
No fear, that's the thing.
That's what it's all about. So what are we up to this year? You're going to win it again this year then? Have you won it already?
I've won it, I won it on August the 22nd, I think it was. I won it for the 3rd time. And
so you're riding for fun now?
I ride for fun anyway. I mean, racing's everything to me. It's my whole life and always has been. I've just got an ambition now to win it 5 times. If I can, I think the record's 6 by Steve Schofield, but at my age, I don't think I don't really think I can win it like every year. I don't think I'll win it the next 3 years, but I can win it, you know, maybe if I miss out next year, I can win it the year after. You know, it's just, the thing is, it's a one-day meeting, and you know, you've only got to have a fall or a breakdown.
Isn't it?
It's on the day.
Right.
You know, so we just take it as it comes and enjoy it.
So I've got to ask you, how did you get into this? Let me have a guess. Junior motocross. That seems to be the way most people get into things.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I had a PW50 when I was 3, and I used to ride. I used to ride it up and down the road when I was 3. And then when I was 6, I got my first motocross bike, which was a KX60, and I raced that until I was like 9.
A KX60 at 6-year-old?
Yeah.
They're a wild machine, then.
Yeah, they're quite quick, for a small bike. Yeah, they do go with a small rider, yeah.
So did you do that competitively then, motocross?
Yeah, I raced for...
With any success?
Yeah, I'd won quite a few meetings, especially on the auto class. I won the North West Centre Championships and a few other club championships.
Excellent. So when did grass track pop up then?
Well, we stopped racing motocross when I was about 9 because of financial difficulties. And say about 4 years ago, we started going to Speedway meetings, you know, just to have a watch. And then at the time I wanted to do Speedway, but I thought, I don't think I'm ready for it. And one day we were passing the shop where I work now, and we thought we'd just go in and see if they had any bikes, any grass track bikes. And we ended up buying this bike, and I couldn't ride it for about another 6 months or so because I wasn't old enough. But I've been riding now for 2 years and it's going quite well.
It's going very well. British Duke champion, I'd say that's going flipping well.
No.
Right. Because I've noticed you do underneath this tent here before, you do a lot of your own spanner work. I know your dad gets his hands dirty now and again, Dave.
Yeah.
He does a bit, but you get involved. You're not just a rider, are you?
No, I'd like to, be involved more with the bike and make sure everything's right.
And I believe this the chassis on this bike is quite famous, isn't it?
Yeah, it belonged to Kelvin Tatum, who was a 1998 world champion.
Right.
And this is last year's bike, which I bought off him and just, made a few modifications to it. Changed the mud guards and so forth.
Excellent, Superstars bike. But now you're now 17, so you're not a youth anymore.
No.
You're now an adult officially. So you're in the adult 350 class.
Yeah.
So how are you finding that?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. It's going really well this season. I've had a few good meetings, a few victories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you up to? What position are you running at the moment?
In the Lancashire Championships, I'm actually winning, and 40 points from second place. And it looks as though I could win that one.
Right.
And this club, which is the Rivington Barnstormers, they've already had one meeting, which was the first one of the season, where I got a third. And I was really chuffed with that. And I just hope I can maintain it today and just hopefully get a win, hopefully.
Good stuff. Well, I hope you do. You've got the bike, you've got the skill and the ability, and I know you've got the determination. I've seen you out there riding like a nutcase. Yeah. You're very busy. You're full of muck. It's about time you went and got a bit more dirty.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
I keep seeing people walking around with shirts and jackets on that say Rivington Barnstormers. Well, I know Rivington Barn's a big biker horn, but what's Rivington Barnstormers? Here's a man who knows, Jeff Warwick. Rivington Barnstormers Motorcycle Club.
There we go.
What on earth is it? What do you do?
Well, it's nothing to do with Rivington Barn. We meet at a pub called the Spinner's Arms in Chorley.
So you don't even meet at Rivington Barn?
We don't meet at Rivington Barn, but I personally go to Rivington Barn a lot.
Right.
The Spinner's Arms is a pub between Rivington Barn and Chorley. We met there, we were looking for an interesting name. Rivington Barn Stormers seemed an ideal name.
Synonymous with bikes, isn't it, Rivington Barn?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so what are you? Are you a bike club? Are you a grass track club or something?
Yes, we are primarily a grass track club.
Right.
But as we said, we would represent anyone on motorcycle sport and point them in a direction. If they wanted motocross, we'd know where to go to get them motocross races. But we are mainly grass track.
So kind of focal point for motorcycle sport in general, really?
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's my mate Ricky. Filthy dirty, knackered and fed up because you've had a bad day, haven't you, Ricky?
Yeah, today's gone very bad. I've just not been able to get out of the starts, and on a track like this and the conditions today, you need to make a good start. Because by the time you got to the first corner, you're just filled in with mud and you just cannot see where you're going.
Well, I tried to have a look through your goggles when you come off, and I put them there, I couldn't see anything. That's got to be the biggest problem out there on a day like this, seeing.
Yeah, really. And they've even cut the races down to 3 laps in the interest of safety because of how muddy it is. It's just the amount of tear-offs you go into. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I spoke to one guy before, Tony Utkin. He's riding without goggles.
Yeah, he can do things like that because he's so good at getting out of the start, and he can ride with his head down at the floor, and get away with it. But us beginners, we can't do that.
Beginners, give over. You'll soon be up there with them.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky's bad day at the office turned out to be not too bad after all. He did actually qualify for the final on the day, where he finished a very creditable third, so went home happy with a few bob in his pocket.
Well, they certainly start them young in this grass track like, don't they? Look at this lot. But seriously, I'm sure, convinced, I've never seen anything as dirty and mucky in my life, especially on a day like this. It's a great sport, but I've got a good idea for all you entrepreneurs out there who want to make a few bob. Buy yourself a mobile jet wash unit. wait for a rainy day and set it up outside a grass track meeting. You make a fortune.
And coming up after the break, Jeff rides a very clean Bimotor SB8R.
Now, in days gone by, when the Japanese made bikes with wonderful engines but wobbly frames, there was a small Italian company called Bimotor, based in Rimini on the Adriatic coast, who made beautiful frames with beautiful engineering. Then the Japs started making neat handling bikes like the TL1000R, but that didn't stop Bimotor. They still thought they could do it, and better. So do they? Is this SB8 with Suzuki's TL1000R engine better than the standard TL1000R? Sort of £7,000 better? Which is sort of twice as better? Now you're asking. First, the frame. And just remember, the beauty is in the detail with Bimotor. Just look at this here. Carbon fibre. It's a twin spar frame, so you'd say nothing new there. But this vacuum formed carbon fibre here forms the swing arm pivot. And up at the top here, if you used to do woodworking at all, there's a sort of a mortise and tenon joint there, beautifully slotted into the main frame forgings. It's just lovely to look at. And this was made by the same people who make Ferrari's bits and pieces, so it's top quality stuff. Now, with the frame only weighing 7.5 kilo, it'd be a bit silly to put a subframe on it for the seat unit, so there's no subframe. This beautifully sculpted carbon fibre seat unit is completely self-supporting. It's just bolted onto the frame down at the bottom here, but underneath there's absolutely nothing but fresh air. It has, of course, got the exhaust pipes tucked up under there, a la 916. Very neat job it is too. But that seat unit is something else. Look at this, childbearing hips on this. The fairing looks familiar because that's a TL1000 headlamp up there, but the rest of the fairing, as you can see from this carbon fibre, is all new. And look at the back, no visible means of suspension, and I'll tell you why. Well, as you can see down here, there's a pivot there with a big alloy rod, and the idea is swing an arm comes up, it actually pushes that rod upwards, and here's the Öhlins unit tucked up inside the frame rail. Remote reservoir is just there where you can easily get onto the adjuster, so it's a fully adjustable Öhlins there, but very neatly tucked away. And while I'm down here, just look at this swing arm, the famous Bimotor name in there, fabricated aluminium. And look at the detail that's gone into this chain adjuster. No scrappy bit of metal there, solid piece of alloy, adjusting screw in the end. That's not going to distort, pulls it back nice and square. Bobbins there as well for the old paddock stand. Coming up to these rear sets here, and all this is beautifully engineered. You can probably hear that little click there. It's even got a little adjuster on there to adjust the throw of the lever, but it really is beautiful. A joy to behold. And what about these air ducts? You probably saw them on the earlier shots, but these aren't just for decoration. These go straight through the plastic tank down to a brand new airbox, and under there they've got new Morelli fuel injection system with massive throttle bodies, 59mm diameter. That's sort of nearly 2.5 inches. That's absolutely massive. All this ups the power to 134 brake as against 125 for the standard TL. But it doesn't feel such a smoothie as the standard bike. It's got a harder edge now and a much louder exhaust to boot. With those two massive chokes gulping air, it pays to keep the motor spinning. But at 7,000 revs, it takes on a new breath and a new sound and absolutely slingshots you forward. The whole bike also feels completely different. But is that any surprise? Especially with a radically different riding position. Because not only have you got these massive ducts in your face, which interestingly actually cover up all the controls, so you need to familiarise yourself first with them as you wonder where all the lights are and all the rest of it, but the bars are much lower than standard too. But you don't really buy a sports bike for comfort, do you? And as I'm young and supple, I don't have a problem with this anyway. But look at these trick bits up here, and I really love this stuff. This top yoke, milled from solid billet aluminium. Just look at it. It really is a pleasure to look at with the gold tops to the forks as well. See this on the top here? This is the choke. Listen to that click. It's lovely. If you're an engineer, you'll appreciate that. Otherwise, you'll think I'm an anorak. And down the bottom there, the second set of yokes, the lower yokes, they're not wimpy triple clamps. These are 4 quadruple clamped lower yokes. Absolutely superb. You're not going to get any twisting in those forks. And also up here, you can see it's got an Öhlins steering damper, best in the business, no problems with that. And another couple of things while I'm here, the mirrors, that could be the two things I suppose. These, you can only see through them when you're flat on the tank, which probably says something about this bike. But when you're in an urban area and you're sitting up, you can only see the road. Absolutely hopeless. And while I'm up here, you can see something else down here if I just swing the bars to the side. This clamp at the top here, this has got an eccentric steering race at the top, and so you can adjust the rake between 24 and 25 degrees. It's similar to a Ducati, 180 degrees out, and you kick the forks out or in. Now what deserves a mention all of its own is the front fork. Now these aren't Showa, they're not Öhlins. These are Paoli, Italian forks again, but look at that gold twinkling here in the setting sun. Absolutely beautiful bits of kit. And the stanchions on these are 46mm, absolutely massive. But don't they look the business? They've got the old Brembo 4-pots. Goes without saying, superb braking, but what a lovely looking bike. And out on the road it adds up to, or you could say it subtracts, because it's 19 kilos lighter than a standard thanks to all that carbon, and in fact it's only 1 kilo heavier than an R1. But at 1390mm it's also got a shorter wheelbase than both of them, so you could expect some liveliness, and you get it. But that doesn't mean twitchiness. It's stable alright, but also very chockable. Whether it's just the riding position or the fact that you can tune the suspension to your liking, I don't know. But it certainly feels much sharper than its more sofa-like donor bike, the TL1000R. And don't be fooled by that skimpy seat either. It's surprisingly comfortable. But perhaps this is missing the point. This bike wants to be different. It wants to be special. It shouts style at you from every angle. It'll cost you $14,500 list, or for this parallel example, $13,999. So if you want cheap thrills, go for the stock Suzuki, but if you want some panache with your dash, go Bimotor.
And coming up on Two Wheels next week, our very own Wayne turns super sleuth to track down the thief who's taken his prized Kawasaki, which just happens to be fitted with the very latest in satellite tracking systems.